Thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. And congratulations. You put your record out today, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I did.
That must be pretty exciting.
It is. It's kind of weird though. I've been like a little like, I don't know. I feel like when you put out a record, it's like giving birth. So you have like that like post depression. Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
don't.
Is it just because it's done and now you're like, okay, now what? Or what do you
Yeah,
think that's for?
yeah, you're like working for months and then you put something out and you're like, oh, that's it. Like,
The build up versus just like, okay, now it's there.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's
So
cool. Well, again, thanks for doing this. Our podcast is all about your journey in music and how you got to where you are today.
yeah,
I did read that you grew up in the Long Island area. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay, tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, Long Island's a very strange place because I feel like there's all these pockets of different. I mean, I grew up in probably like a very conservative area, I guess I'd
Uh-huh.
say. And so probably like 14, 15, I started definitely like venturing into the city a lot and playing shows and kind of like escaping that. I actually felt like the town I grew up in was like very kind of like squashed like weirdness or like creativity. So I was happy to get out.
That's good. Well, what was the first instrument you learned to play?
The drums. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so I learned those when I was 13. And then after that, kind of like did guitar, piano, the rest of it.
What drew you to the drums at 13? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was actually in Washington, D.C., and there was a street drummer or like two of them playing like these huge Rubbermaid containers.
Hmm.
And I'm turning to my parents, I was like, I need to do that. Like I had to do it. And then I think I had to beg them for like 2 years to buy me a drum set for Christmas. And then eventually it came. But yeah, it was that.
Cool. How'd you get into music originally? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I think I started off on the drums and then
Hmm.
I was really into like wanting to be in a band and having like other bandmates. So I started like trying to find some people on Long Island to play with and like doing that whole thing. And then from that onwards, like 15 onwards, I was just like music full time, probably in different ways. Though, like I was a drummer until I was 18. So
Oh, okay. So you were in from when you got the kit to 18, every band you were in, you were the drummer.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. And when did you branch off of drumming to, you said 18? What was the reasoning? Did you just start writing your own songs? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I think there was a transition into like wanting to be a songwriter. And I was like, I love the drums, but like I'm not obsessed with being the best drummer. Like I don't like care about that whole thing. And the singer in the band at my time was like pretty mean to me and also a bad singer. And I couldn't find someone else. So I was like, okay, I guess I should, since I'm writing these songs, like it would almost freak me out when he would sing the songs I was writing. It felt like a weird
Oh, you wrote the songs and he sang them.
yeah, exactly. And I was like,
Oh, okay.
you're right. Like it's not supposed to sound like that. So I think it was like that whole process. And yeah, that's when I had started singing. So
So you were just writing lyrics, or you were writing out the whole song and teaching them how to play?
whole song.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you were the drummer, but you were the songwriter for the band and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a pretty interesting experience. I miss it sometimes, but
So you well with that band, were you guys just playing locally, like Long Island, or are you getting some shows in the city?
we were doing the city, Long Island, and we had just finished like recording like an EP professionally. It was like my first studio experience.
How was
And
that?
it was interesting. I don't know. I feel like the producer we worked with kind of was like ripping us off a little bit. Like said like certain things and like said he was going to charge a certain amount and then suddenly like every edit became like more and more money. You know what I mean? It's like one of
Oh,
those
right. Yeah.
like ethical. So um but I really had a great time too. I think when you're little, like that's what you dream about, like going into a studio and
Yeah.
yeah.
Putting out a recording and everything.
Exactly.
That's cool. And from there, you decided to go with that recording. Did you guys do anything with it? Just sold it, or it was like just like a little demo that you made copies
No,
of?
we actually broke up before the recording came out. So it
Oh
was
wow.
for like this whole album, and then by the time it came out or was supposed to come out, I was like, I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah.
Okay, and then you
Which
went and
sounds bad, but they were actually, I don't know why we're talking about my old band. It's so funny, but they all, I was like, I don't want to go to college. I want to do music full time. And if you guys are going to go to college and like do other stuff, then I'm going to do a solo project. And they're like, they said, you're not allowed to do that. Like, that's going to like compete with our band. So anyway, that's the drama of when I was little.
That's funny. And then so you went solo and started your own thing.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of took me a while to end up in like a good place. I feel like solo wise, I was trying to figure it out for a while. And I guess still am. So
Were you just was it scary? I mean, going from drumming and writing the songs to now you are the main focus of the music?
yeah, I hated it. And I think that that's like what held me off from doing it for so long is like I'm pretty shy most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just had a really big fear of like being up on stage and being the center of attention and everything. So that was like a tough growing, like learning experience. And a lot of people, I think, usually are singing from the time they're like 12, 13, like, you know what I mean? A lot younger and like have kind of like formative years to figure out like what they want to do musically. And I didn't start that until a little bit later. So I kind of had to learn it like even just the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm. What was the first show you did solo?
The first show I did solo, I mean, I don't know if I would call it a show, but the first time I really remember playing was it was like a show at a coffee shop
Mm-hmm.
on the island. And a lot of people came, so it was actually like kind of like, I think that's why I consider it a show, even though it was so small. But yeah, I was at this little coffee shop and it was super cramped and I probably sounded really bizarre, but that,
And at that time, were you was that when you decided to go by C, or was
yeah,
that even prior to that?
no, that was when I was going by C.
Okay, so C started when you started the solo career.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
that was like the name back then, which I think is kind of a whole thing, like me not wanting to be in the spotlight. Like I picked like this weird name that no one could even find. It was just
The
like
hardest Google search ever because it's
yeah,
gonna come up in a million
Google searching was a nightmare.
things. So okay, so C was the first project, and then you had like a. Tell me about having this viral video that kind of launched everything for you.
Yeah, so the viral video was called Potions, and that was the first single I released.
Was
So
that the first song you had recorded?
No, well, professionally, really professionally, like that was like my first like actual really good studio experience. And yeah, that was the first one that I had recorded.
Okay.
And so I think, I don't really know how it happened, but I think YouTube like has these algorithms that happen. And I think there weren't as many like queer artists at the time. And for some, that video just got like swept in this like algorithm of videos. And I think like in a month had 1 million views, which for like releasing my first song was like crazy. But I also didn't, looking back, like I was talking about this the other day, I was like, how did I not think that that was like so great? Now I'm like 10,000 streams. I'm like thrilled.
Right. I mean, 1 million. Jeez.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy thing now that I especially think back on it. But I hated, I mean, I really kind of sound negative today. Sorry. Funny that
it's the post album depression.
Yeah, it really is. That video though, I had like really kind of like sketchy bad management at the time, and my management was like pushing the video to be so sexual, and it was just like really, I like cried when it came out because I was like, this is not like how I want to be perceived. Like this is like not who I want to be. and then ironically it did so well. So it was just this weird thing.
Do you remember seeing, like, was it like, you said a month and it had 1 million, but like, do you remember what, was it like gradually growing? I mean, 1 million in a month is a lot. So do you remember like the next day looking at it and it had, you know, instead of 3 or 4 plays, it has 15,000 plays? Like, was that kind of the beginning of it?
Yeah, I think slowly, like the first like 3 or 4 days, I remember it was like, okay, we're at 1,500 views after a night. Now we're at like 4,000 views the next day. Now we're at this, like 10,000, 15,000. And like once it got past 100,000 after a couple of days, I was like, oh wow, like this is like definitely going well. But at the same time, I think when you're young and like I had just gotten signed in like a weird way, like I maybe like, because when like you're really little and you're signing with a label, you're like, oh, once I'm signed, like everything will go well.
Mm-hmm.
Like not that, like I was like, oh, this is like normal. This is great. I had this total weird perception.
So you were signed before you released the video.
Yeah, I got signed.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that. How did you
Yeah.
get, yeah, how'd you get signed? I thought you got signed off of the success of the record, or of the release.
Yes, it was actually before that. I had recorded an EP of stuff like on my own in my bedroom, and
Oh, wow.
I had this management, and this was like, I guess the one good thing they did, and they I guess like shopped it around like a couple of different people, and I was so young, and the recording was like very raw and like actually in some ways more reminiscent of the album I just put out.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that's what got me signed. And then Potions was the first song I did after I got signed. So
Oh,
that was
okay.
by my label. Yeah.
Okay. So then when you were seeing the growth, you just were kind of like, well, I'm signed to this label, so maybe that was
Yeah,
part
and
of
like
it.
I had a PR team that I liked, and I was like, oh, I guess this is like just what happens when you have proper people behind you. Like,
Mhm.
meanwhile, that's just not ever what happens normally. So
Yeah, right. You couldn't even pay for that. I mean, maybe you could, but nowadays it's like
no,
bands don't get 1 million plays in a month. That's, yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
So what was that? So C's going, you that video gets 7 million plays, and then what happens from there? Like, are people calling you, like different labels? Like, I'm sure that had to stir up some interest in other areas, having that many plays on the song.
Honestly, I wish I had more control over my career at that time. I
Uh-huh.
think that I would be able to answer that better, but my management really like hid a lot of stuff from me and like didn't really tell me ever what was going on. So I
Oh.
don't know, like I don't really know who was contacting me, what was happening. Like I felt really in the dark, so it was scary like for the first year after that, because I think I realized how little control I had and how little like I think my management didn't like probably do what they should have done like with that momentum, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I was kind of like in this weird place. And I did like a tour or two, and I did a residency at a venue in New York. And for the first like 2 or 3 shows in the residency, like a lot of people came. Like it was like an exciting time
Mm-hmm.
in that regard. But I also think my name was kind of hard to find. Interesting. I think I would have actually seen a little more like, I don't know what to say, but like a little more like reaching out in certain areas, or a little more like following on other platforms if the name had been easier to find.
Yeah. What's interesting is that video, got 1 million plays in over in like a month, and I tried to find it on Google or on YouTube just by typing in C Potions, and I couldn't find it. Like, it wasn't even.
You know what? I also learned that recently, like a month or two ago, it got age restricted. So if you're not signed into like a Google account, you can't see it.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. But I think I'm signed in, or I would be signed in because I'm on, but that's when I searched it. But that's
Oh,
interesting.
well, also it's Car Astor now. I changed it. Like,
Oh, you did change it on the actual song as well.
I did, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. So I was just searching C. I'm sure I could find it then. Because I found a couple performances of you doing it, like acoustic. There was like an acoustic performance of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't find the actual video. I'm like, maybe she scrubbed it from the internet, or it was because I'm using C and I couldn't, and there's a million things that have C and potions in it on YouTube. But okay, that's cool. So when did you decide to, did C just kind of fizzle out, or is it something with the management? How come you decided to change to Car Astor?
I think, like touching on earlier, it
Mm-hmm.
comes from me growing out of those like formative years, I think is what I called it, of
Mm-hmm.
like figuring out who I wanted to be as a musician. Like I never had that. Like I kind of like put out a song and it did well, and like I was like, shoot, like I can't really go back now. And well, I did because I changed my name, but I think I just wanted everything to be like I was ready to come out and like be a person and like write songs that were like super authentic to my experience and like be a proper solo artist. I think when I started C, it was almost like in a way I visualize it more like a band or something because I think that that's what I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I changed the name, I was like, okay, like this is my project. People have called me Car my whole life. My real name's Carly.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like very like comfortable and just like honest. So
So
yeah.
that, and then did you keep any of those songs from C, or did you start fresh?
I kept all of them. I did. It's just weird because my everything that's out right now is like pretty scattered just because I have been figuring myself out like the
Mhm.
past couple. That's been like I guess in like a public way or at least through the in a musical way. But yeah, everything's there.
Oh, okay. And so like, oh, so you did under Car Astor. Is this record the first thing you recorded like while you're under that name, or is the others like were the other songs recorded as C and then you just changed the name on it like with the video?
Well, for Potions and that EP, there was like a 5-song EP that came out under C, and then before I released songs again like a year and a half ago, I changed the name, and I'd already recorded like a new batch of songs, but I said to my label like I'm growing a lot. I really want to change my name. It feels right for me. I want people to be able to Google me. Like there was a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is like the first album I guess that like I've had this name and like was recorded fully under this name.
Okay. And so are all these songs fresh, or were any of these songs older, like from like this new release? You Say You Love Me, but I Don't Believe You. The new record that came out today, are all those songs newer than C?
Oh yeah, a lot
Okay.
newer. Yeah, all of these are written in like the last year or year
Oh,
and a half.
okay.
Yeah.
And you said that you changed your sound quite a bit when you changed to Car Astor. Is that what you're talking? You said you went more to your roots, kind of, or like earlier singer songwriter stuff.
Yeah, well, this record in particular is like that. In 2019, I put out like 3 or 4 singles,
Mm-hmm.
and that was recorded when I was still C. So it kind of sounds more like that stuff. But I
Okay.
put that under Car Astor. That's when I was changing my name. And now, like that new batch of music that came out today is like way more back to my roots. It's completely stripped down, very singer songwriter,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and like leaning into that a lot, which is kind of how I started off musically. So
That's cool. Yeah. It's more, but yeah, back to your kind of your roots of recording in the basement on the demo tapes and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Tell me about this album. You said you started writing it about what, a year ago, year or so ago.
Yeah, I would say like a year and a half ago is when I was recording it. So I
Okay.
probably wrote most of it like a year and a half ago or like a little bit prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all of it came about really like from a super like emotional place, I guess, which is why it kind of all leaned back into my roots in terms of like how it all sounds. I was
Mm-hmm.
like caught in this love triangle with my best friend, and it was super complicated and like really emotionally taxing. And these songs came out of a period where I think I was literally just writing as therapy is kind of what I'm realizing it was.
Mm-hmm.
And like not like trying to write like an amazing pop song or write like write for anyone else except for myself. So I never really thought that these songs would come out, but they did. And it's just like it kind of feels like a big diary entry to me, like the whole album. Like it's just very personal. There's every word in it. Like there's no metaphors. Like it's like very straight and to the point.
Mm-hmm. Was
So.
that like a nerve-wracking thing to do? Like I mean, now the record's out and your truth is all over the world. Like, was that scary going into those sessions, knowing that everyone's going to hear what you had to say?
Yeah, it was really scary. And I think today I'm even feeling some of that. It's just the whole sound of it is so raw, and the lyrics are that I think in a way, like, it's like a sad listen for sure, because I was really sad when I was making it. But it's just weird to know that people are gonna feel that and like hear that in my voice. Like I remember when I was recording it, I would have to leave the booth because I would like be really upset and like just like so not like in like a good place. So it's definitely, it feels very raw, and like I think that's pretty obvious across it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely scary, and this very unedited. There's like no auto tune, there's like no editing or like pitch correction. Like it's super stripped back. So it's a different look for me.
Yeah, wow. Love the video that you put out for the single that you
Thank you.
guys did. Yeah, did you shoot that like recently, or was that done prior to quarantine?
I shot I shot everything in quarantine. I have another video coming out in a couple weeks, but it's all very DIY, which oddly it's funny because when I was gonna put this out before the lockdown, I was like, how am I gonna make these visuals feel as like raw and like homemade as the album feels? But it oddly like kind of I think lended itself to that because it's the same vibe. It's just like me with like a camera trying to figure
Yeah,
it.
you're like in the bathtub or like a bathroom, and like
Yeah,
even the footage is like it looks all like old and distorted, kind of. It's
yeah.
a rad video. It's really cool. I was wondering if you shot in quarantine, just because it seems like there's not. You would be something that you
You
could
know
do. It
what?
wasn't like a big production. You know what I mean?
No, that was just me and my tub. I was like, okay, guess I have to shoot a video today. Yeah.
Did you have that concept, or how did that concept come about?
I had a different every video ever that I've ever made. I always have a different concept, and then it's either like a week before shooting or the minute of, and everything changes. um, so that was that. I had a different concept, and then I was like, this is too complicated or like doesn't look good. So I just got in the tub.
It's great. It's a
Yeah.
really cool video. And is that the one that you did with your friend?
Yeah. Well, are you talking about Morgan or?
Yeah, Morgan Saint.
Yeah, well, she shot a video for the single before that, which is kind of a
Oh,
black light style one. And then
okay.
we shot one um a couple weeks ago that is going to come out soon. So she was helping a lot with
Oh,
those.
okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And now that we're in lockdown, I mean, were you able to play these songs out to the world quite a bit prior to being stuck inside? Like, you know what
Not
I mean?
really. Not really. I mean, I play a lot of so far shows, so I did a couple of those, which are so much fun and like really intimate and cool. And
They're called what? I'm sorry, so far shows?
yeah, have you heard of so far?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, you
Maybe I
have to.
have in this and I'm just dumb. I don't know. Tell me
Um,
about it.
well, you really should check it out. They're so cool. They're in like every city in the country, in the world, like major cities, and they have, I think, usually like a show a night or so, and people sign up because they know it's going to be good music, and then you don't know who the artist is and you just show up and the artist plays for you, and it's like everyone kind of sits on like the floor in front of you, and it's usually like 50 to like 200 people. It's like really very cool.
That is
uh,
cool. And
yeah.
they just happen. Like you sign up and say, I want to go to the show tonight, and you don't know who's playing.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Wow.
a great experience. I think I noticed a lot of people go on dates there because it's kind of like a quirky cool thing to like
Yeah.
to love and but it's really good for the artist too because you get all these people that are dead silent, like really interested in listening to you. I don't know. I love it. I have so much fun at them.
And that's something that they do in New York, or is it this is like
Mhm.
a big? Oh, it's only in New York.
No, it's everywhere. I've
Oh
done them
wow.
in New York, DC, Boston, LA. They've been in London, like everywhere. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
cool. So you were playing those prior to
Yeah.
lockdown.
Yeah. I think I played one like 3 weeks prior, and I not confirmed, but 90% sure it had the virus in January, like a couple weeks before I played this show. And
Mhm.
I remember laughing with the audience because the virus like wasn't like that big of a deal at that point. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like I had gone on a cruise. I was like, I went on a cruise a few weeks ago. I got so sick. I almost went to the hospital. Like it was horrible. And I was like, I probably had the virus. And everyone was cracking up. And then literally maybe a week later, like we couldn't leave our apartments.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how quickly it happened. Like the last interview I did in person was with G Love from G Love and Special Sauce. And
Yeah.
he walked in. It was same thing. It was like when it went from like the fist bump, like the handshake to the fist bump to like we were at like the elbow stage of the handshake.
Oh.
And I made a joke about it too, because he's like, oh, like, he was kind of like, where, what do you want me to do, or sit down or whatever. He's like, my manager just, I don't really know everything that's going on. I just said, they probably just told you to go in here and, talk to these people that have the coronavirus. And then it was just like, we were just joking about it. And then it like 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
it was like, stay in the house.
I know. It happened so quickly. It was really crazy.
And
Oh
you're
my
in New
God.
York too, where it's like, it was
Yeah.
gnarly. I mean, I'm sure it's still pretty bad.
I mean, New York now, luckily, is I think pretty good, and everyone's so safe. Like everyone wears masks like all the time. I mean, there's like definitely gatherings that are bad, but that's really
Mhm.
anywhere. Um,
Yeah.
New York was definitely crazy, and I was moving at the time too, and I was
Oh,
moving from
wow.
Brooklyn to Manhattan, so it was just a complete mess.
Were you able to, I mean, obviously you moved, but like that must have been just a complete nightmare if you're trying to get somebody to help
Yeah.
move and yeah.
Well, yeah, me and my girlfriend had to move out of the apartment we were in like the middle of the virus. Like there was no one even on, and we somehow found this moving company to do it. And then we were able to hold off our lease for like 2 months. We moved in June to a new place. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow. Did you have shows booked prior to COVID happening that you had to cancel or?
I didn't. I was still not even sure if I was going to put out this album at the
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah. Well, I had other music I was working on. Like I'm always like making music. So I was unsure of like the next steps, but kind of throughout the virus is when I decided, you know what, I'm going to put this out. Like
Mhm.
I should like give it a life. So
Oh, okay. So you actually decided to release it during because of quarantine. I mean, you were already in it and you're like, yeah, at least just put it out.
yeah. I mean, I had like recorded it and I was unsure of like when I wanted to release it. But yeah, during quarantine, I was like, let me just put this out there. Like, I think the vibe is like perfect. It's like very DIY, and that's like kind of like what's happening. So I
Sure.
felt like, yeah.
That's interesting because a lot of people were like holding records and not trying not to release them because they couldn't tour or support it. And you're like,
Yeah.
that's the opposite. I don't know if I'm going to release it, but now I am because we're all inside anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the same time, like, what are people going to do? Like, not people are only engaged for so long with you. If you wait years to like put out music, it's a really weird time for musicians. So, like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I know. It's like I've talked to people that are saying like, well, if I don't put it out, then what? What if we can't tour for a year? And now this record, I have another record I want to put out, and because you're going to have all this material and then you just kind of get backed up and you're like, you just get it out there. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the conclusion that a lot of people have come to anyway. So
Yeah. Have you
yeah.
been able to do like you were like those live streams? Have you done any of that to promote the record?
I have. I did a virtual so far one, which was really cool, and then I've done a couple others too. I mean, I've done ones on my own. I've probably done
Hmm.
like 4 or 5.
Do you
So,
enjoy them or?
um, I do, but it's just awkward. I mean, there's just such a different energy when there's people like there in the room with you. Like I get
Mhm.
a lot more nervous playing to my phone.
Right, I've heard that. Is it
Yeah.
because you just can't? Is it? Why do you think that is?
So I think there's just I think it's an energy thing. I don't know. I think being creative, like a big part of that is like picking up on energy and like feeling things around you, and to like be playing to nothing and not like having that like feedback. I don't know. It's just, it's strange, and it like is weird when you like finish a song and you're just like, thanks. And you're
Right.
like,
There's no cheers or anything. It's just,
yeah, like not that you need cheers. Like I've played plenty of shows where there's like 5 people there, but like it's I don't know. It's just a weird situation. Do you watch them? Like, do you feel like
I've seen a couple, and to be honest, I'm not really big into it. I think
Yeah.
it was cool. But to be honest, like in the beginning, I thought it was really cool. And what I think is still really cool about this, what we can take from this is like, we get to like, as a fan, like I get to see you in your natural, like, you're just in your room. Like you could be in your room playing guitar. And I think that's cool to see, like kind of behind the curtain of your, artist, favorite artist. If you like, Death Cab, you see Ben Gibbard playing in his living room or whatever. I think it's kind of cool to see, like kind of have that inside look into your, favorite artists, like lives, so to speak.
That's true. It definitely feels more personal like that.
Yeah, but as a music fan and watching them, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to get behind for the same reason that you're saying, like where it's like this could just be any recorded video that you could find on YouTube.
I know. I feel the exact same way. So I don't know. We'll see. I think people have definitely scaled back and try. Oh my girlfriend's family's dog is like trying to break into the room. I locked the door and
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
do you need to let the dog in? It's okay.
Oh, she's okay. She'll
Okay.
like leave. Sorry, I was really distracted there for a second.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. So okay. So you have done them. It's just odd with the exactly, nobody's cheering, but they are heard opening up some venues, like some states are letting shows happen. Here in California, it hasn't yet,
Really?
or they're doing the drive-in ones, but not.
Wait, states are they like having venues?
I heard where Denver, I believe, is one. Wisconsin, like more the northeastern states where I've heard doing them, but very scaled back. So say you were going to play a 500 cap room, you'd be playing to like 200.
Gotcha.
Or if it was like a 300, it's just that they have to space it out. And one person I was talking to said that they played, it was supposed to be 250 room. And they scaled it back to 100 by setting up like 25 tables, and then everybody had to stay. So you would buy a table for you and 4 people, and you would do it that way.
Oh, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So even if you did $100 a table, and there's $25 for a ticket to see, whoever, that's a deal.
I don't mind that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all shifts. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Well, time will tell, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Car, for talking with me today. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Same here. It was really fun.
I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Wow. I think what I would say is truly like 100% dive into yourself and figure out what makes you comfortable and who you really want to be, and then output that times 10. You know what I mean? I think all about I don't really know what I'm doing either. I think every artist is like constantly figuring it out. I think that's why we keep making art. Mm-hmm. But really, I think stick with like what makes you different, and like try to stay away from being like other people. That's what I would say.